Thanks for tuning in to the Old Dirty Basement. On this week's episode, we're covering the Hinterkaifeck murders.
The Gabriels, the Grubers, the Schlittenbauers, and Muellers. How does it all come together?
That was good. Yeah, I thought Schrobenhausen and Schrittenbrauer or whatever, Schlittenbauer were breweries.
Yeah.
They're not.
Could be in Germany for sure, yeah, but we hope you're enjoying the podcast. If you are, hit that 5-star rating on Spotify, on Apple, leave us a written review, and sit back, relax, and enjoy the Hinterkaifeck murders.
This is the Old Dirty Basement, home to debauchery, madness, murder, and mayhem. A terror-filled train ride deep into the depths of the devil's den.
With a little bit of humor.
History and copious consciousness.
I'm your announcer, Shallow Throat. Your hosts are Dave, Matt, and Zap. I love you, Matthew McConaughey. All right, all right, all right.
Hey, this is Dave,
Matt,
And Zap.
and welcome to the Old Dirty Basement.
where every week we cover a true crime.
Murder,
Or compelling story.
So sit back.
relax.
And comprehend.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Old Dirty Basement. I am Matt. With me always is Dave and Zap.
What's going on?
Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. You guys have been lost boys.
Yeah,
but-
that was good.
Now easy, thou shalt not lie.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Yeah, I was in beautiful downtown Wilkes-Barre, PA. For those that don't know, it's up in northeastern Pennsylvania. They have a Lions Brewery. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Lion's Head beer.
Oh, God, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
Lion's Head.
The Lion's Head's actually the blue box. They have a blue and a red. The blue variety was awesome. It's a great cheap beer.
It's a great cheap beer.
It's like
yes.
it's the Busch Light of Lion's Head. It's great.
They love it in northeastern PA. So I think it's $2 for like a 16 ounce or something like that.
Wow, it's a good price.
Which isn't bad.
That's not bad. You know, beer's big in Germany, and speaking of Germany, I think we have something going on over there today.
Yeah. Well, something going on over there today that's been going on for 100 years. It's the unsolved, yet to be solved, I should say, mysterious murders at Hinterkaifeck Farm.
Hinterkaifeck.
Hinterkaifeck.
Yeah.
Maybe we can solve it today.
Well, let's see. I'm sure we can speculate the hell out of this for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go back a bit, shall we?
Hold on. Before you continue, Zap, Dave, could you pass me a pen over there?
Sure,
I think I'm going
sir.
to keep notes for the Hinterkaifeck
Sure.
Stuben. Thank
Try
you.
that one out.
All right, we're good.
We're
Continue.
Yeah. All right. It's late March, 1922, at the Hinterkaifeck farm in Weidhofen, Bavaria, and strange things are afoot. Andreas Gruber, the patriarch of his family and owner of the farm, and his widowed daughter, Victoria Gabriel, see a man near the edge of the forest surrounding their farm. The man looks to both of them, then disappears into the woods. Later, Andreas discovers footprints in the snow leading from the forest to the farm's machine room and finds the lock to the door of the machine room broken. He also discovers signs of an attempted break-in on the door to the feed room. Note, the footsteps in the snow only lead to the machine room. There were no footsteps leading away. Oddly enough, Andreas had recently come across a daily newspaper from Munich found on the property. Knowing no one on the farm had purchased it, he brushed off the oddity in thinking the postman delivered it to his house by mistake. But no one in the area subscribed to that newspaper. Meanwhile, Victoria has been particularly on edge as of late. She's positive she's being watched. She's also heard footsteps in the attic of the house.
Yeah, that newspaper they said was from like a faraway place. Like,
Yeah.
It wasn't even one that you would
Like-
normally get to.
Fairy Tale Land or something? Or
Yeah, fairy tale land.
like a faraway place. Can you be more specific?
Like maybe New York Times or something. I don't know. But it was something that you would not normally see in that area.
So I got to give Dave a little credit here and back Dave. I should say I'll back Dave up on what he's saying. So this stuff, so much of this, let's remember, this was number one, 100 years ago. Two, this was in German, translated into English. That we're doing our research. I can speak. I'm surely for all three of us that we don't speak German fluently, if at all.
So it's much like any Bible.
Right.
So so you're going to get loosely translated, and it'll read something to the effect of the newspaper was from far away.
From far away. And hinter means behind. So behind Kaifeck. So there was a little hamlet or little area called Kaifeck, and that's where this farm was like above or behind, I guess they said. So that's what that hinter means. So that's one German word I guess we'll learn today.
Look
Hinter.
at that. Look what we learned today.
Also a feed room. They don't have, that's not like your kitchen or anything. I think that's where they would like house the animals.
For the animals.
Food.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Animal food.
Cool.
The feed room. Not to be confused with a pantry or a cupboard. No, it's the feed room.
Because I'm sure if somebody would Google that, it'd be something completely different.
Perform an internet search.
Yes.
So this chick's, she's hearing noises. This Victoria, she's hearing, toys in the attic.
Right. And
She got bats in her belfry.
was this Victoria? I can't remember. Was that the maid or the
Victoria is the daughter.
the daughter? Okay.
So there's Andreas Gruber, the patriarch, and then his daughter. The only people we've heard of so far is Victoria. Her last name is Gabriel.
Gabriel.
There's more to the story.
And she's like 35, I think, around the time.
So that might be right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
about right.
So what is he in his like mid-50s?
He's 60.
60. Oh,
early
okay.
60s, I think.
And still strapping.
Yes.
Strapping young lad.
He's an able-bodied man. I mean, he's a farm owner. These guys
farm workers, yeah.
work to the grave.
Oh, absolutely.
They can't stop, won't stop.
He's kind of like, oh my God, I can't think of the guy on The Simpsons. He always, remember, he like takes his shirt off, the farmer guy.
Not groundskeeper Willie.
Groundskeeper Willie. That's it. Yes.
Okay, it could be, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I see. I can.
That's kind of where, that's what I'm thinking right now. That's what I have pictured in my head.
That's not some bad imagery right there. That's pretty good.
Not like Ned Flanders, like, when he takes his shirt off too, he's all ripped and buff. But
Stupid, sexy Flanders.
yeah, but the same thing with,
He's like
Groundskeeper Willie is what I have pictured in my
or
head.
like the Vitamix guy. Remember that old dude? The juicer guy. He was like in his 80s.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Is that the guy that was able to swim across the English Channel, like dragging
Jack
boats behind-
LaLanne.
That's it,
Jack LaLanne.
Jack
Yeah.
LaLanne. He would do like those, he would have like little infomercials back in like the 50s and stuff where he would, he can, whatever.
Like
that's it.
calisthenics or
Yeah,
something.
calisthenics. Go ahead and voodoo that or whatever the hell it's called.
Wow.
Voodoo it.
Yeah, there is in fact much more to unfold in this because on March 31st, Andreas and Victoria went to Schrobenhausen, the closest town, to do some shopping.
Schrobenhausen, isn't that a brewery?
Yes,
It might be, yeah.
that's like Meisterbrausen.
Yeah.
Yes, Meisterbrow. Does that mean good beer or something like that?
Could be.
Yeah.
I think it's House of the Schroben.
Cool.
Oh, the house of you might be right. That's a literal translation right
It
there.
is.
All right. Both Andreas and Victoria mentioned the strange events at the farm to some of the locals, who advised them to alert the police. But Andreas is a proud man who knows how to take care of his own. He refuses the suggestion. Later that afternoon, the farm's long-awaited new maid, Maria Baumgartner,
Oh, there she is.
there she is, arrives at the farm. Day becomes evening, and evening becomes night. Victoria, who's become quite adept at hearing noises in the night, hears a rustle in the stable and goes to investigate. After what seems to be an unusual amount of time away from the house, Victoria's mother, Kazilia Gruber, that's Andreas's wife, goes to the stable to check on Victoria. Time goes by, and Andreas is now wondering why his wife and daughter haven't returned to the house. He, too, makes his way to the stable. Victoria's daughter, Kazilia Gabriel, named obviously after her grandmother, awakens in the night and searches for her mom. Realizing her mom, grandmother, and grandfather are not in the house, she, too, makes her way to the stable.
Wonder what's going on in the stable there.
Sounds like a house party.
It's funny, like you say all the noises in the night, and everybody's like the noises in the night. In 1922, like that's all you would pretty much hear.
That was that was television back then.
Yeah. There was no TV. Yeah, there was no. I don't think they would have a radio. Maybe 1922, right?
They would have had it, but like crickets and like
Yeah, well, you hear
outdoor noises and
Yeah,
stuff
but you're
like
always
that, but
hearing
everything.
things at night. It's not like I wouldn't be like, oh my God, I hear something out there.
I wonder if that was like a parlor game back then, where they would just sit around in the living room and everybody be silent, and you just wait for the next creak or, crackle or animal rustling or something, and name that sound.
Yeah. Oh, that was the beaver by the pond.
That's right. Yeah. They always say old houses make noises, but
Sure do.
Was like because the house wasn't that old then? Was it making noises then, or is it just because houses are so old that they make noises? You know what I'm saying? Like an old house that was only to us, which is old now, 100 years, was maybe 10 years old then.
Yeah, but they're like placed together. Like a 10-year-old house would still make noises.
No, they built them solid back then.
They built them solidly, and houses.
But everything
were built,
settles though. 'cause
Everything
it
was
wasn't.
built differently back then. Houses today don't breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, I mean, there was no such thing as soffits and this, that, and the other thing that closed off the house from squirrels or any kind of other shit that could climb up into the
Right.
roof. Everything was wide open. The house, by wide, I mean, you were out of the rain and shit, but you had plenty of airflow moving. You had plenty of stuff to just move and shake with the changing of the seasons. Nowadays, houses are just closed up, clammed up. The air is conditioned, moisture's removed, all kinds of wild shit. I mean, houses are shit nowadays compared to what they used to be.
I would say our houses now are like bitch ass houses compared to those.
They are bitch ass houses.
Back then, houses were like
Made right.
built. Yeah.
I bet Andreas built that house with his two bare hands.
He did. But that's what it would make the noise because of like the expanding and the
He did.
contracting and all that other stuff. I know he did.
Yeah.
It's written in it's translated to I built this freaking house.
I think it was in a Rammstein song.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's right.
Du hast mich gefahren.
All right. Let's not forget that March 31st, 1922 was a Friday.
I got shit to do.
You ain't got no job.
I ain't got no car to get to my job. I'm broke because I ain't got no job to buy a car to get to my job.
The next day, April 1st, two coffee merchants, Hans and Edward Sharowski, arrive as usual to take an order.
So two Polish dudes just jumped into the mix.
Sure.
Yeah.
Russian, I'm thinking.
Maybe Russian. Yeah.
Sneaky fucking Russians.
Yeah.
Strangely, no one answered the door. 2 days later, April 2nd, the locals took notice to the Grubers and Gabriels being absent from Sunday church service.
That's a no-no.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's everybody in the community is like,
They're
what?
like, what's
It's
going
friggin'
on?
Sunday. Where are you at?
That's correct.
Yeah,
You're
there's
going
nothing
to hell.
else to do.
Yeah, you better all be crippled and or got the worst flu ever.
Right.
Even then, they'll drag your ass to church.
True. April 3rd and April 4th, which were a Monday and Tuesday, come and go. Little Kazelia Gabriel was marked as absent from school both days, with no excuse provided by her mother.
Was that a thing back then?
Shit,
Like
yeah.
an excuse?
Yeah, you have to have like a note
I know.
from your doctor.
I mean, look,
I'm
if
sure,
if you were absent from school, didn't you have to give notes when you were a kid?
Yeah, or your parents would call in or whatever. I guess, yeah, they were like, hey, your kid got to be at school. I didn't know it was such a big thing because they were probably at the farm working,
Let's not forget. Let's keep in mind these are extremely, extremely small towns. Everybody knows everybody, so things are going to go awry when something is out of consistency, out of regularity. So when a girl is missing for doesn't show up to school
Yeah.
for 2 days, and nobody's seen the parents at church, or I should say the mother and the grandparents at church, people are going to start to wonder.
Yeah, I went back to the church thing. You're right. Everybody's like, whoa, where are they at?
I mean, everybody talks. Everybody knows everybody.
What if you had a note if you missed church for the priest? You know what I mean? They take it seriously. You know
Do I
what
have to
I'm
go to confession?
Bring me the note.
saying? Yes.
Also on April 4th, a local mechanic, Albert Hoffner, went to the farm in the morning to perform some repairs on an engine. Despite persistent knocks at the door, again, no one answered. Word of the Gruber and Gabriel disappearance made its way to the town's mayor, Lorenz Schlittenbauer.
Great name.
Lorenz dispatches his son and stepson, Johann and Josef, to the farm to attempt to make contact. Like others before them, they knocked on the door to the house, walked around the house, and returned with no news. Well, if you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. Lorenz enlists the help of his two neighbors, Michael Pohl and Jakob Siegel, to investigate. The three, along with Johann and Josef, make their way to the Hinterkaifeck farm. So everybody's looking for the Kaifecks.
Yeah.
Hinterkaifecks. The Gabriels and the Grubers.
And I always trip off at jobs that don't exist anymore, like coffee merchants. Is that still a thing? You go
Sure.
door to door and like
Selling coffee. I mean, so
Yeah.
that wasn't like, look, understand, that's still to this day, it's an import-export biz.
no,
Yes, it's the same thing.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But
It is, but yeah, back then there was no such thing as warehouses, distributors, supermarkets.
right, no Costco or anything.
Correct,
Like that. So you got to go
correct.
door
There was
to
a guy,
door.
a wagon, a horse.
Well, the cool thing is,
Door to
though,
door.
back then everybody's specialized. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Like I deal in coffee, so you're gonna know your shit.
That's
you're
right.
You're not trying to.
Look, man, you want that tea? You got the wrong guy.
I'm not the tea guy.
I am not the tea man. Don't confuse me with that son of a bitch.
What's the T-Man trying to make sausage for?
Yeah.
What was he thinking?
Decaf? No. I just got straight coffee.
I don't think there was decaf.
Nope.
They wouldn't even ask for that.
That reminds me of a joke by Gary Goldman. He's a comic. He's like real tall, and his
Was that Arnold Drummond from Different Strokes?
was that his name? Gary Goldman.
Yes.
Now with a G,
Oh.
Goldman. But no, his parents were real tall, and people would always, he was real tall. His parents were real short, and people would always make a joke like, "Well, how tall was the milkman?" And he'd say, "Oh yeah, that's what my mom does. She sleeps with guys whose jobs no longer exist." She had a thing with the cobbler.
Nice.
She was, named all these different things that like these jobs no longer exist. But yeah, coffee merchant.
Coffee merchant.
Still and like you said, I'm sure they're on a national scale now or international scale.
Well, so I'm just thinking back in the day when I hear of two coffee merchants, the Coffee Brothers, whatever. Mm-hmm. So these guys got a horse and a wagon, and they walk around and they take orders, and they're also delivering the same day because you don't want to. I mean, that's inefficient. Like the most expensive thing in the distribution business is an empty truck. Driving back and forth. You're just wasting time.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to believe, they're walking around with coffee in the back of this wagon taking orders. And then every so often they go to, this is Germany, which is landlocked. It's not touching an ocean.
Right.
They got to be going someplace to pick up this coffee from somebody else. It's getting it from the ocean. Colombia,
Yeah.
Venezuela, wherever the hell they grow coffee anymore.
So those guys probably, when they were done, they were like, this ain't going to work out. So I know, let's become movie merchants.
Yes. That thought had crossed my mind.
Yeah, and I wonder if that worked out.
It might have. I mean, they were just starting movies back then.
Yeah.
Long before talkies.
So these guys were the first Starbucks, pretty much in Germany.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. For sure. All right, so the coffee movie merchants failed. Lorenz is taking it into his own hands now, grabs his two neighbors and go. All right.
Do you guys remember movie merchants?
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Hell
The
yeah.
video store. I don't think it lasted. That's what.
That was in Jamesway Plaza.
There was one in Jamesway Plaza. There was also one on Dairy Street.
Yep.
Yeah.
They were all over the place.
Do you think those movie stores were pissed because like Blockbuster was Blockbuster, and they were like, "Damn, we got to try like this." They jumped on it quick, and they started. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it was like too late.
They were like the generic Blockbuster.
That's what happens.
But they would give you like a 3-night rental instead of like a 2-night.
Mm-hmm.
The three men, Lorenz, Michael, and Jakob, along with the two boys, Johann and Josef, return to Hinterkaifeck farm. The three men find the barn door open, with the lock having been broken. They enter the barn and leave the two boys outside to wait. Inside, the men find the bodies of Victoria Gabriel, Kazelia Gruber, Andreas Gruber, and Kazelia Gabriel, all having been murdered by blows to the head with a mattock. Victoria, the first victim, had been struck 9 times, leaving her skull all but crushed.
What is a mattock? Like a large hammer?
No.
Like what is a mattock?
Like a pickaxe type thing, right?
So think of, all right, so everybody in your mind, think of an axe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that axe has from a mattock's perspective now, think of that, it has a thinner blade. That is to say, if you're holding the axe, like the width of the blade, not the thickness of the blade, but the width of it, like top to bottom of the blade, that is a thinner width. On the back of that, now on the other side of the handle, is the same, exact same implement, but twisted 90 degrees. So you have an axe that goes vertically, and then you have an axe that goes horizontally.
It's like a farm tool. Was it made for
100%? So you can chop wood with that. You can hack away at wood with it, as in like carve or hone wood.
Okay.
You can chop trees down. You can chop roots out. I mean, it's a good implement
like
for sure.
a multi-tool, multitasking.
I in fact own one.
There was an interesting thing on this actual murder weapon. Then we'll get to it at the end.
Yep,
This one was maybe a little different.
We'll see.
Cool.
The investigation continues to the Gruber house. Though the front door was locked, Lorenz was in possession of a key, as was commonplace for neighbors to have spare keys. In the house, the body of the recently arrived maid is found, also having been murdered, and also found murdered was Joseph Gabriel, Victoria's son and little brother to Casilia, who was just 2.5 years old at the time.
Yeah, it's screwed up.
It's messed up, man.
That's something to walk in on, you know what I mean? Like, I just couldn't imagine, but
Always remember that.
I do know one thing that they said that, now this is from the others that were there, that Lorenz was kind of like not shocked by the the scene there. So I don't know if that'll come in the later on. You know what I mean?
It does come in.
But
you gonna learn, Dave. You gonna learn.
I will say that, I mean, everybody handles that type situation differently.
Sure.
So to speculate that, just because of his reaction could have meant anything, I don't know. But I know that, in certain scenarios, people act differently. Not everybody's going to freak out and be like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Yeah. He was very calm and So we'll see.
We shall see. I have my own speculations on this, but I've already composed and know all of this, so we'll see.
This has nothing to do with the actual story, but these names, I'm laughing in my head because it sounds like if they were doing like a German, like making of the band. Yeah. Like they'll be like, the Schlittenbauer 3.
That's right.
Yeah,
Lorenz, Michael, and Jakob. We're looking for Joseph.
We get some downloads in Germany. We love our German fans.
Yes.
They're probably very familiar with this story. And the names are probably like Matt and Zap over there. Zap. I don't know how many Zaps there are out there, but
probably not.
We'll say John.
Yeah, there's Johns.
There's got to be Johns.
Hohens or Hofsef and Jacobs.
It's in the Bible. There's got to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, our German brethren.
Yeah.
Volkswagens are awesome.
Hail Hydra. Mm-hmm. Now, that was a Marvel reference.
Yes.
Okay. Although the Red Skull was with the Germans at first. Okay. Well, the investigations into the crimes was thorough. These uncovered some interesting goings-on. Forensics deduced that Casilia Gabriel, that's the one grandchild, had been alive for several hours after she'd been struck. The damage to her skull prompted her to pull her hair out while she died.
God.
Yeah, presumably believing the hair on her head had been the source of the pain.
That's horrible.
Yeah, can you dig that? Like, this girl's head is hurting because she just got struck with a goddamn matic.
Yeah, you're trying to get the pain out.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's just messed up. Let's see. It appeared as though the perpetrator, or perpetrators, spent a few days at the farm after the murders had been committed, as the cattle had all been fed and leftovers of recently cooked meals remained. Robbery was a motive that was initially considered, but this was swiftly dismissed when a large amount of money had been found at the house. The investigation and interrogations went on for nearly a year. No definitive suspect could be found, and no case could be made. The buildings on the property were torn down in February and March 1923. During the demolition, the well-hidden matic was unearthed, as was a rusty pocket knife.
Yeah, they said there were well over 100 suspects.
Yeah. Again, they're going to
anybody in the town.
They're basically just, look, we don't know what the hell happened here. We're just going to question everybody and hope nobody's lying to us.
And as far as the money goes, there was money that was left there, but they did say that there was money taken. I guess the maid, it was the maid or Victoria, one of them took out a sizable amount of money out of the bank. And that's the only way they knew that this cash would have been on hand there, and it was missing. There was cash missing, but a lot of cash left alone, as well as jewelry that was there.
Yeah.
But the jewelry, they said, was like peasant jewelry, like not really worth anything.
Gotcha.
So it was kind of like,
you don't need your peasant jewelry.
Like moissanites, not real diamonds.
Right, just like
costume jewelry.
Stuff that, exactly. Like, I'm not going to bother. Or the other thing I thought in my head was maybe taking things like that could be traced back. Like, say you pawn it or something.
Sure. Again, small town. They're going to say, hey, man, isn't that, Andreas Kaifeck's or Andreas Gruber's, wristwatch?
Right. You couldn't trace cash.
Correct.
Cash is king.
Marks, as it were.
Marks.
But even then, like for robberies, everybody pretty much had the same shit. Like, except like for money, like you said, that'd be the only thing worthy of robbing.
It's true. Right. Everybody had mattocks. Everybody had cows. Everybody had a farm.
Horses, farms.
That's right.
It's the same chickens.
Everybody had the same shit. Everybody probably smelled the same.
Right.
Like old cabbage.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they only bathed in the pond like once a week.
Yep.
You could have stole a case of, what was that, Schrobenbausen, or what was that beer?
Schlappenheimer. Schlittenbauer.
It was Schrobenhausen.
Lowenbrow.
Lion's Head.
Yes.
Lion's Head.
Yeah. White
translated,
line.
yeah, white line. But yeah, so it's just crazy they couldn't solve this. You know what I mean?
Really?
Is it?
No, I mean, I don't know. It just seems like I don't know. I just don't see.
How is that? Like Zat was saying, like, let's go and ask everybody, can we see your matic, please? Yes, I have one right here in the kitchen.
Well, the number one thing for me that kind of makes me like, what the hell? Like, they had fingerprint technology at this time.
Sure did.
And did not take fingerprints or use any of that. That would have probably solved it right there.
How?
Because they could have took fingerprints from the, if it would have been a...
Everybody knows everybody. Everybody's in and out of everybody's house all the time.
Somebody borrowed the matic
But what if
twice
there's
last week.
If there's a bloody fingerprint, you're not there unless the murder was going on.
You gotta ask OJ about that.
Although, if it doesn't fit, but he was there. They were there during the aftermath of the murder. People in the town and shit. So we'll get to that part, I guess. But yeah, I just think like I'm surprised they didn't solve it.
Well, like right away? Is that what you're saying? Like,
no, just like over time. You know what I mean? But I think they screwed up as far as the murder scene and everything else. It was, which we'll get into. Then.
We will.
I mean, the murder scene was horrific. Just from
4 bodies in the barn, 2 bodies in the house.
Yeah.
One of them was a 2.5-year-old kid.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. So
I think I know who it is, but
I think I know who it is too. So I have a list of 5 possible suspects that I had come across, and I'm going to go in order of least to most likely, in my humble opinion. Okay, in my opinion, let's say the least likely, the Gump brothers. Now, these are 2 brothers who'd been experienced in genocide in the region due to their involvement in the Freikorps Oberland. That's a militia organization known to have been a part of genocidal acts against Polish and communist insurgents. I think they just said, oh, it might be one of the Gump brothers because those guys are just hired killers.
right.
That's all they do. They know how to kill. Like, you got coffee merchants, and then you got killers. These guys kill.
Yeah.
It's true.
You got to get the Gump brothers on that.
Yeah.
Right.
You need some killing done, call the Gump brothers.
What about? I was waiting for it, Matt.
What?
Forrest Gump?
I wasn't going to do it.
Oh,
No.
okay, all right.
It crossed my mind.
Jenny.
Oh, Jesus. Next, on my least likelihood, I have Anton and Carl Bickler. Now, these were 2 farmhands who knew the layout of the farm very well. Anton, in particular, was friendly with the dog, who otherwise barked at everyone else. Also, Anton held a grudge with the Gruber family, citing his disgust for the rumors of incest and his envy for their wealth. So this is just these are 2 guys. These guys as suspects were basically
They're just hired hands that go around town.
Yeah,
People need help, with the crops or something like that.
It's like that angry employee thing. Like they wanted more, or again, like they're envious like they're just workers. They wish that they had the wealth that their
The people
employers had.
And these people were wealthy.
Yeah.
They had some. Yeah, they had money.
There was some quid there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So Anton and Carl, they just wanted like a real house. They're living in some shanty
Yep.
Right.
down by the woods.
Sleeping with the cows.
Yeah.
That's real messed up, man. Damn.
Got no home.
So,
No housing. Yeah.
it's a damn shame when folks be throwing away a perfectly good white boy like that. Next on my list of least likely, but we're getting closer, right?
Right.
Likelihood is getting closer.
Edging.
There's a fella named Paul Mueller. Mueller.
Yeah.
Now, this was a German drifter who'd made his way to the United States and killed other families in the United States in the same fashion. Like Massachusetts was, I think, the most notorious, where he killed a family of 4, maybe 5 or 6 people on a farm using a matic, like using whatever. Like the crime scene almost mirrored this.
Did they have like oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
No, I was just saying, did they have like an Interpol back then? Like, were there people looking for this guy?
Not by then.
They didn't have. They barely had telephones.
Yeah,
I didn't know. Like they like we got to get Joey Swift on this case.
Right.
He's like, I'm heading over to Germany. I'm
So
gonna catch this guy.
This cat left the United States and returned to Germany at some point in 1912. This was after the United States police and press began to notice patterns in the crime scenes. So it's like we've done countless serial killers where patterns start to show themselves, right?
Yeah, there was a book called The Man from the Train. And it was all about this guy and his murders and all the murders that he committed. I think there was only a few that he actually got prosecuted for. And it was the same MO. He would go in, murder everybody with an axe, and then jump on a train, not steal anything, and just roll. But he would murder. The one thing that was kind of wild with this at the time, and even to this day, is usually children don't get killed. I mean, for the most part.
Right.
It's usually a sexually driven or money driven or whatever. But you usually don't kill like a whole family unless it's like a crime of passion or like, this and that. But this man from the train was just one of those rare individuals that would kill everything and anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except the animals.
Well,
Well, that's nice.
Right.
I wouldn't kill animals either, except the squirrels. I hate the goddamn squirrels.
But Dave was saying it's sort of like a retaliation or something like so deep against that family. It'd be the only way that you would do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. Which gets us to our final two contestants.
Come on down.
Contestant second most likely, in my humble opinion, Carl Gabriel. Oh,
yeah.
There's that last name again. Well, who the hell's Carl? Oh, hell no. Who's that bitch? Carl Gabriel is the presumed dead husband of Victoria, who died in World War I. Yet his body had never been recovered. Joseph, let's not forget, Joseph, the dead toddler and son of Victoria, was born in 1919. But Carl had been reported as killed in action back in 1914.
She was getting that extra loving.
In fact, it was widely speculated that Joseph was the product of incest between Andreas Gruber, the father, and Victoria, his daughter, as both had been charged with incest in the village courts.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that was like a thing, like we charge you with incest. No more. Hands off, even though you're living in the same house.
Think of like the Salem witch trials, right? Back in the 1800s. Witch. No, you're a witch. They hung these broads. Mm-hmm. So in this case, this is just the local tribunal saying, yep.
Incest.
We heard you two were banging. Well, like, Victoria, how did you get pregnant?
Yeah.
The maid turned them in.
So fun fact, before all of this went down, there was a maid that quit and left this farm, 6 months earlier? Almost a year?
6 months.
6 months earlier.
Yeah, and she had walked in on him and
slapping it.
Yeah, it was like in the barn or whatever.
No razors.
And then she went to authorities, and then he did a year, and Victoria actually did either a year or a month as well.
For incest.
But then Victoria, I guess, had this Schlittenbauer and said, hey, will you just say like that you're the father of the kid here, like, and pay the child support so this will go away?
When you say Schlittenbauer, certainly you must be referring to Lorenz Schlittenbauer.
Schlittenbauer, right.
He was the mayor of the little commune at the time. Okay.
Right. So
like a Maury Povich show. Like, Lorenz, you are the father.
This is almost like what it turned into. Yeah.
Well, and that, I'm glad you mentioned Lorenz Schlittenbauer, because the mayor, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, is my number one suspect. He, too, is believed to have been Joseph's potential father. When he and the two neighbors went to investigate the scene, this is as David had mentioned, he broke away and made his way into the house alone, using his key to enter. Now, look, I get it. Neighbors have keys. Look, my neighbors have keys to my house. I get that. That's a thing.
I don't think the locks were too hard to get into.
Not a big deal. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody had the same goddamn key.
Yeah.
It's the same lock. Oh, there was right behind the Coffee Brothers was the locksmith. And everybody had the same
key.
Yeah. It is speculated that he, Lorenz, murdered the family because Victoria might have been demanding financial support from him for Joseph.
There it is.
In exchange for keeping her silence that he, in fact, was the father.
Yeah, so that was the whole thing, I think, is that
it has everything to do with Joseph.
Blackmail and the whole idea of incest. And if he really was in love with her, which that's what they said, like he really fancied her.
Yeah.
He was upset that he approached the father to marry her. So Schlittenbauer was a widower, and his wife had died. Within 2 weeks, he was messing around with Victoria.
Slapping it with Victoria.
Yeah,
Victoria's secret.
And he wanted to marry her. But the father was like, no, I won't allow it. Because he was, messing around.
Yeah, man, that's my little
incest,
That's my little playground up in there.
But I had another theory.
Through her forest.
I had another theory.
No razors.
No shaving.
There was no shaving.
No shaving. Absolutely not.
No manscaping. No. So even their nipples were hairy.
We know the killer was in the house, in the attic, probably crawling around up in the attic through the ductwork.
There were some toys in ductwork. I don't know if they had ducts, but I know that for damn sure Victoria had
The
she lost her mind.
HVAC company was involved.
So Victoria wasn't. Look, I know I just brushed over it in the beginning of the story here, but Victoria was like scared out of her mind. Like, in fact, at one point she ran out of the house. She was so scared by that shit. She ran out of the house, and they found her, cowering in the woods.
So it's the Grubers, and there's somebody above them in the ductwork crawling around. I think it was John McClane. That's where I was going with this. That was my theory on it. I was thinking the whole time, every time we're talking about Gruber, I'm thinking of Hans Gruber.
Hans, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm surprised there was no Hans mentioned in this.
No.
Hans Gruber's Dracula.
Right.
My favorite.
Yeah.
No, but honestly, Zap, I'm with you on this. I would think if I had to pick one, it would be... Because there's motive there, Schlittenbauer, but there are theories that there were more than one.
Yeah, I don't think the mayor did it himself. I don't think he had the balls to do it. You don't have to murder some people like that. You need there got to be other people involved.
There? Because look, so this guy, look, we're just talking here. So this cat had every reason, let's assume for this circumstance that he in fact was the father, and she's blackmailing him for money, or she's going to let it out that, hey man, me and the old mayor here were slapping it, and that's certainly not allowed. You can't have sex out of wedlock. That's a hanging offense. Like, you might as well be a witch.
Right.
So blackmailing this guy, give me money, or I'm going to let everybody know that you and I were doing this. I mean, when it comes to this is the mayor, so this is his popularity, this is his everything, his reputation, and his money. Shit. Yeah. I mean, look, I'm going to go kill him.
He has motive. None of these other really had motive. I mean, Carl Gabriel, if he was really alive, would be the other one. So
that's definitely that's not even second place. That's almost tied with first. If in fact he did not die in the war and he just came back, so there's speculation that because they didn't find his body. One, he was just AWOL. He didn't want to fight anymore. Two, he made his way to the Soviet Union.
Yeah, because there was some German POWs from World War II that got released back to Germany, and they said they were under the control of a Russian soldier named Karl, who spoke of the Hinterkaifeck murders and said he committed them, and this and that. So there were people that were saying the theory is that Karl, didn't die in the war, went over to the Russian side, ended up fighting with the Russians, and was a high-ranking Russian soldier or whatever that had these POWs and was like bragging about the murder.
Well, that's just a story you can tell to make you sound like a real badass too.
Well, that's it too.
Yeah, that's something that he heard this story from someone, or
it's true. It's like when you go to prison. How many people did you kill?
13.
Right.
Oh,
Here's some cool facts though from like stuff surrounding the days leading up to and the murder. Like Zap spoke of, there was the maid that was there before left because she said it was haunted. Did you know that back then when a maid or like a somebody working for somebody, not even just a maid, their code for like a bad employer was to say the place was haunted when they quit.
Oh,
so if you were working for somebody and it's like a bad job, but you don't want to like throw yourself on, it was like
you want another job,
right? It was like a little known, but amongst those people, like say it's haunted, and then we'll know.
Yeah,
like stay away.
It's interesting.
There was a 15-year-old boy. This is like a few years earlier. He was like a runaway, and he accessed that attic at Hinterkaifeck and lived up there for like a few days. I guess he stole some ham and bread and stuff, but he had hid out there a couple days. Yeah. So like I don't know how it must have been like easy as hell to get up in these attics and kind of hide out.
So that was the thing. So for sure, to bring everybody back to what Dave had mentioned just there. I mean, let's not forget that in the investigation, they did in fact notice that leftovers and recently cooked meals like remained, and it's essentially meat is still warm, or the oven is the stove is still warm, or something's still going. A half-eaten plate of meat and bread is still sitting there.
Well, there was human excrement in there too, so somebody was like squatting. You know what I'm saying?
What was that? Didn't you touch on that? Wasn't there a movie about that? They're like turtling or something. Frogging.
Yeah, frogging is a thing.
This guy was the original frogger.
We talked about frogging.
Yeah, PHROGGING. Look it up. Frogging, like people see how long they can hang out in a house. So
you're saying it could be in fact circumstantial that these murders happen, and let's say the murderers kill and run away, and then at the time there's this 15-year-old runaway, not to be confused with the Bon Jovi song of the same name,
right?
That this guy shows up and, hey, House is wide open. All I got to look, they got food here. Shit, yeah, I'm going to hang out for a little bit.
Well, actually, the 15-year-old was a few years earlier that it happened and was the family was aware of it. Like, oh, they caught the kid then, I guess, or something. And he was like, oh, I got my
he would have
runaway.
nothing to do with
My
that.
apologies. I thought this was at the same time.
No, but it does set that it could have happened.
It happened once. It could happen again.
Because they said that around this time, there was a lot of grift, like people, kind of like Rambo. People
Sure.
from the war, people that were walking around in these remote areas with nowhere to go and nothing to do, and they're looking for shelter. And they would sneak into these houses or barns or, farmhouses.
Yeah, I think the barns were usually cozy.
Right. So it wasn't like unheard of. And actually, there were murders and things similar to this that happened in the surrounding areas that it's not really well known. Like people don't usually talk about it as much around this, but there was other cases similar to this, like where families got murdered in a similar fashion. So it could have been like a serial killer type person that did this, and it was just their MO. I mean, there's so many theories and there's so much shit out here on this case. It's so hard to tell what's for real and what's not.
The serial killer is Paul Mueller.
I mean?
That would be
that might have been the one.
Yeah.
But it could have been like people coming in, like you said, these grifters and stuff. Maybe their family had some money. They needed a place. They were like, well, that's a nice place on the hill, but they got like a shit ton of kids and family living there.
Right.
So if they take them out, then the house might be up for sale. Then they can buy it.
So that Schlittenbauer was a friend of the family, kind of. He was over there and knew he was on the property, knew the property. The dog was very aggressive to strangers.
except Anton, what's his name? Anton Rockamora. Anton Bickler.
The Gump brothers too, weren't they cool with the dog or who? Oh no,
Right.
Bickler.
Bickler was one of the farmhands. The dog, he was friendly with the dog.
But in other words, the dog wouldn't have put up with, like a stranger coming in there because the dog was actually left out, fed, taken care of during all the days after the murder, as were the animals.
Yep.
So whoever did this stuck around and took care of the farm animals, the dog included. And so that's something to think about. Like the dog's just not going to let some stranger walk up and take him off the leash. Yeah, Scooby.
Yeah.
What was the other thing? Oh, the Munich police department was the closest police department, 45 miles away.
Okay.
So by the time they reached the crime scene, like we had talked about,
It was 10 years later.
it was a long time. And this
3 days of travel.
this Loren Schlittenbauer had people from the town coming in, walking through the crime scene.
Oh, yeah.
Showing them around, like, moving bodies. And that's with a lot of people. There were accounts that he was very nonchalant about it.
Yep.
But that might just be how he handles shit.
But life went on back then too. It'd be like, wow, this sucks. We gotta milk the cows in about 20 minutes. So everybody, let's clean this up and get back to work.
Here's one that got me too. There was a calendar hanging in the kitchen, right?
Yep.
And the day after the murder, would have switched to the next month. They ripped that page off.
Oh.
So that would have been like, there were people that actually say that there's these theories out there that the father killed them all and that somebody walked in, saw what he did, and then killed him.
Oh.
So, but who would have ripped the calendar the day
That
off?
makes no sense.
Yeah.
There's an OCD, not even an OCD. There's just a matter of continuance or the regularity, consistency in people's minds that, look, I don't care where I am. I'm going to mark off days on the calendar. That's what I do. I wake up every morning. Oh, well, that day's over, X. And I don't care where I am. I'm just going to X on calendar.
Right. Yeah, so that could have been it. I don't know. And one last thing I have, and I thought this is pretty wild. Maybe you guys, I'm sure you came across this. They beheaded them after, took the heads off and sent them to a clairvoyant, the skulls, for a reading.
So I thought
afterwards.
I did read, they certainly took the heads off. I definitely saw that they took the heads off, but I thought that they had sent it to Munich for forensics.
Well, they did.
Which is what discovered that, the implement that did this is a matic.
Right.
No doubt this is a matic.
Right. So I went to Munich. They did their thing. They dead end. Like, we don't know what to do here. So at the time, there's clairvoyants that they're like, hey, last ditch effort, send it to them.
Gypsies.
So they sent it to all these clairvoyants that went and, they shipped them these skulls and they're looking to see if they could get anything. The only thing they got out of it was that one of them said there was definitely 2 perpetrators and they couldn't really give them any like solid information. But those skulls since have been lost during World War II. A lot of the evidence from this case was lost during World War II. Yeah. The bodies of the 6 were all buried together. So the maid who was there for 24 hours is now buried with his family.
Wow.
Which I think is pretty wild.
Well, good for her, because otherwise, I promise you, she wouldn't have been buried. Like that. So that maid, that particular maid that was there for one day, she was cripping the boogie. Like she was, let's say, on the lower end of the intelligence quotient spectrum.
Right.
She also had like a club foot, short leg, walked with a limp.
She sounds
Right.
very attractive.
Funky ass Helga, whatever her name was. Let me find it here.
Oh, the
Helga.
maid, Maria.
Thank you, Fräulein Maria.
Yeah.
So Fräulein Maria shows up, and she didn't have a dime to her name. Hell, she'd been out of work for months earlier.
So she probably would end up getting buried.
No,
But
they
she's
would have
in-
just thrown her in the river.
She's in the middle of them all. Did you guys know, and maybe you guys know this, and if not, one of our German listeners, please reach out and let me know if this is true, that they recycle graves after like 30 years.
That's
So-
awesome.
So when you're buried, say you get buried, they'll dig you up like after 30 years.
Then
to
where do they put
save the space? I guess they cremate you.
Oh, okay. That
Like
makes
to
sense.
save space.
That's messed up.
As you think about it, I think about that all the time. Like when you get, you have so many people. If you bury everybody, eventually, aren't you going to run out of?
If it were me, so what you're saying makes sense. It just so happens that there is such a vast expanse of dirt still on this planet that could otherwise be used for grave. There is, I don't know, my solution would be to just dig the hole deeper. Maybe 6 feet isn't deep enough. So
Right.
go down like 18 feet.
And stack them or something.
Yeah.
They do that in Louisiana, I think, because of the.
So the first 30 years goes to the guy that's 18 feet down. The next 30 years goes to somebody who's 15 feet, then
Right.
12, then
So you wanna
9,
be-
then 6.
you
You could
wanna-
get like, you could recycle that grave 6 times.
Isn't that Sherveck? Isn't he looking for isn't the worst waste of prime real estate?
Yes.
So you want to be like the Jeffersons of graves and
Moving
get to
on
the top,
up.
Yeah,
moving
moving
on
on
up
up.
to the top. I want to be under all that shit.
No.
But yeah, I don't know if that's true or not. I heard that on a podcast actually about this, and I was like, man, that's an interesting tidbit. If this is true, that's the thing. There's so much bullshit out there on
nobody
these stories.
knows.
Like, who knows? You know what I mean?
So old and
You don't even know.
in another country and.
Oh, one of the things that we were talking earlier about the murder weapon. So you said it's like a
It's an
Oh,
axe on
axe
one
on-
side. It's the one side is an
It's
axe.
like a flat axe,
And the
though.
back
It's
of
used
it-
for like a hoe.
the back of it is that same axe head just turned
the
horizontally.
other way. Supposedly they said that, and there again, who knows if this is true or not, that the Lorenz had a specific one that his had a nail on the one end
Ooh.
that he would use to stun like the pigs before he would axe them.
Oh.
And that particular side of it was used on all of the murders except his. So they were saying like maybe he murdered because he would like, I guess it was you had to have like, it's not something you could pick up and use and know how to use. You got to
Right.
like work with it, I guess,
So-
to kill or
Is it possible to tie back to one of your theories earlier?
that
Andreas killed everybody. Lorenz killed Andreas.
Maybe, yeah. I'm sorry, that's who it was. It was Andreas's weapon, and he would have known how to use
With
it
the
that
pig
way
stunner.
because it was customized. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He had it like for him. So
These guys had time on their hands back
Oh,
then.
so
Right.
right. So not Lorenz the mayor. You're saying the father, Andreas.
Andreas, yes, I'm sorry.
So Andreas the father used his own custom made, matic to kill everybody else, but then somebody killed him.
With the mat, like walked in on it, and was like, "You motherfucker," you know what I
Right.
mean? I'm gonna,
Yeah.
and then took him out, and then who's to say?
Who's to
I don't know,
say? You don't
interesting
even
thing.
know.
It's an unsolved mystery to this day.
It could be, so it could be that Andreas did the killings and then Lorenz the mayor showed up and said, "What the hell, man?"
I know in 2007, Modern Forensic Team went over everything. Like there was 150 pages of research they did on this and narrowed it down to one person that they think it absolutely has to be. But they won't release the name because of
They want to incriminate his family, the descendants.
exactly since it's there's surviving members and they don't want to put it out there because they can't really 100% prove it. It's just based on what they gathered. So I don't know.
I was amazed to find so much of it in German. In fact, the vast majority of this in German. But man, this is a big deal.
It's huge over there, yeah. Like I said, it's a well-known. I mean, I think it's little known over here. Like it's gaining some traction now with social media and stuff. People put out little 5-minute TikToks about it.
I didn't know a damn thing about this until you brought it
I
up.
didn't know anything about it. It's kind of like what over there, like the Manson murder still, something like that. Like
Yeah, it's like they said it's the most gruesome unsolved murder
Unsolved,
in German
okay.
history. So it was just one of those ones where I think because of the kids being involved and
Yeah.
it was just kind of like it seemed like a senseless act. But that's where I first saw it was on like a little TikTok video. That was a few years ago. I listened to a podcast on it a few years ago, and then obviously getting ready for this, I listened to a lot more stuff, watched a documentary, different things. And a lot of the stuff, there was a lot of things that were the same in all of the research that I've listened to or watched or read, but a lot of things that are different. People throwing their own little, and who knows what parts of those are true or made up or, along the way. But yeah, I picked this one. I thought it was interesting. I don't know. I know it's 100 years old, but I thought it was pretty.
It's wild.
It's still the mystery still is out there.
I liked going back in time to determine, like Matt had aptly pointed out, like what the hell kind of forensics did they have back then? I mean, I was surprised to find that they even had the ability or the knowledge to utilize fingerprinting. Mm-hmm. But again, this is 100 years ago. Well, 100 years ago to me might as well be 1,000 years ago.
Yeah.
I just don't have a perspective on that. I don't know how swiftly or slowly technology would have evolved between X and Y.
I think the fingerprinting, like you were saying, I think it's if they do see, because people always had dirty hands back then, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if there was something like a smudge, or they could probably take a fingerprint of that thumb, and from people they might think of as a suspect and look into it. That's probably what, like, all the technology they had for that.
Yep.
And just be like, how were you there? Why were you there?
Why were you there? How? Yeah. And then somebody gets on the stand there and they get all crazy and start singing like a jailbird or whatever they call it.
Yeah. Sing like a canary.
Canary.
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
But yeah, Zach, thanks for writing that up, researching it. Matt, thank you.
Hey, thanks for the memories. Yeah. No, thanks for bringing this to our attention, man. This was and remains compelling. Mm-hmm. I feel compelled.
For sure. So
compelling stories.
You guys got anything else in closing?
I got nothing.
Me either.
Hey guys, can you wrap it up?
Ooh,
man.
I knew that was coming.
I'm glad we got that in time there.
Yeah, it was just in time. But we'll definitely be back next week with next week will be a vintage cinema review. I think we're doing Lost Boys.
Ooh.
Which I referenced in the beginning, little tease. So definitely tune in for that. Don't forget to find us on Facebook and Instagram at Old Dirty Basement and TikTok at Old Dirty Basement Podcast. I guess that's it for now. So we'll catch you where?
On the flip side.
If we don't see you sooner, we'll see you later.
Peace. Thanks for hanging out in the Old Dirty Basement. If you dig our theme music like we do, check out the Tsunami Experiment. Find them on Facebook. Their music is available streaming on Spotify and Apple, and where great music is available.
You can find us at Old Dirty Basement on Facebook and Instagram, and at Old Dirty Basement Podcast on TikTok.
Peace.
We Audi 5000.